Yes, good morning. Just confirm you can hear me. Okay, thank you very much, Prince. And let me say good morning to our panelists and Business and Financial Times. Thank you for this program. Not only is it timely, but it's also a very important program that should actually help to shape the discussions that we do. And let me say hi to Nana, Ectel, Dan, Dominic, and the rest of you, Letitia. So to your question, the businesses that um, have been affected and those that have benefited from this. So we've already been in the pandemic for about a year now. And so we've already seen certain businesses that have thrived in this and others that have suffered. And I just give a few examples. So when we look at businesses that have benefited, we can talk about the pharmaceutical companies. Definitely, this is an area now. It's healthcare, nose masks, sanitizers. A lot of the things that we are buying from the pharmaceutical companies, they are benefiting tremendously. You can also talk about the telecommunication companies. So I think they talk about digitalization. How do we support this? You need a bandwidth. You need to have the internet support. You need the systems. And so the telecommunication companies have also significantly been impacted positively. You can also talk about some of the e-commerce businesses that are in the e-commerce space, those who are able to help us in terms of being able to do business, online businesses, and entertainment were able to move things digitally, also benefited quite a lot. But let me also say there were other businesses that have suffered. Of course, those in the tourism and hospitality industry, there were no movement of people, and so gatherings were not happening any longer. Hotels suffered quite a bit, and those in the aviation industry, if the airports are not opening, planes are not moving, then obviously there's no business for these people. The other two that I will talk about are sports and those that perform arts. And then oil and gas, you can also imagine when activity ceases in the system, are also affected, and you can see from the prices of things that they were actually affected negatively. Now we are almost like moving gradually out. We are not out of it. So we are looking at those other businesses that are going to take advantage of where we are, and so that they can benefit from there. I will leave it here at this point. And so when we have opportunity, we can then look at possibly what are the other areas that are coming up, which people can watch out, so that they can take advantage as we begin gradually to move out of the pandemic. Prince, so I will hand over back to you. So when I get the opportunity, I will share some perspective on other. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. And I think the whole crisis, and when as we look at it, you realize that businesses that had actually prepared themselves, who had processes in place, who had planned and had the contingencies on how to adapt, how to change the way they do their things, were the ones who were able to uplift their business into the new normal, as you call it, so that they are able to serve their customers. So if we're sitting in history, because don't forget it, technology has been with us, and technology has always been a game changer. It's always been a driver, and it's always moved the competition. So if you were someone who were always not looking at innovation, looking at how you'll be able to adapt to changes of the way things are done, then you suffer. And I can tell you, even some businesses who were sitting in those that were harder hit, they didn't suffer the same way. Why? The reason is that some of them had prepared themselves. They had the contingency plans. They begin to trigger some of this innovation, and some hotels were able to do a little amount of businesses even during the crisis times. People who were selling food, and now you will see, quickly trying to say, okay, can we serve even the traditional meals? Can we package it and deliver it to you online? People who were hitherto to doing advertising, then move quickly to online and to social media, getting their system. So to your question, actually, some of the businesses were not prepared. They had not anticipated it, and their systems were not flexible, and the innovation process did not kick in to enable them take advantage of this. And that's the reason why they suffered so much. And there are a few examples that are there that we can share as we go along. Thank you, Prince.
interaction. Again, you need to build resilience into the business so that going forward, even as these events happen, because you have resilience in the business, you're able to quickly adjust to meet the changing environment. So strategy has always been at the core of business. It will continue to be at the core of business, but it is how you do it now. And I think that it is still, the practices are still evolving. There's no correct answer. And I guess that we will see who the winners are 3, 4, 5 years down the line when the chips have all fallen into place.
I'm a keen reader of ethnographies, anthropology, because I realize that it speaks to everything, from politics to business to household cultures and to personal interactions with people. And I've also come to understand that partnerships are the way to go. When we're looking at the World Wide Web, how did it grow or get connected? Because it's a web system. It's founded on partnerships. And this we're seeing with how banks and other institutions are creating hubs, incubator and accelerator hubs, which bring in all these young people to share experiences and ideas where these banks have competed and not wanted to share their experiences and ideas. And so the question is this the new way to go? Is this a way to go?
No, absolutely, Prince. It is the way to go. And it's clearly demonstrated. And I'll just give one example. The CEO of Nokia at the time, Nokia was a leader by far in phones, right? CEO said at the time that we have been beaten by a competitor, not just because they're selling devices, but we have been beaten by the ecosystem they have established. And so Apple had this ecosystem where you had, they had strong links with their telcos, they had an army of web developers or developers developing their apps, and strong links in production, the supply chain. So that's how Nokia got beaten. There are plenty of other examples like that. So partnership is key, and that's why going forward, the way you manage those partnerships, the way you manage complex relationships will become a key competitive advantage and a core competence for every firm that wants to succeed.
And we also, so we'll come to you, Dominic Edu. So I'd like to segue from what we just heard from Daniel Addo. Now, we see around the world the more developed economies taking a lot of cues from their military. We see that crisis upon crisis, the military has been involved to find solutions. And now, in the past, since 2000, after the Twin Towers went down, we've seen warfare taken into the city center, where we are fighting enemies we can't see. It's a bit like what we are fighting now. And so you'd realize that these big economies have structures that respond to such uncertainties. Now, coming to adaptation, how can our organizations and industries ensure adaptability of business during this new normal?
Thanks. Thanks, Prince, and thanks for the opportunity to present our experience as
And you are the
National
CEO of FNB.
Indeed, I am. Yes. Indeed, I am. So thanks for the opportunity. Look, I mean, the new norm has definitely come to stay. What is it? What we're talking about is the way we work and how we should work going forward. Yes, there's the new norm about wearing masks and sanitizing, but that's just the basics of it. The fundamental one is, how does an organization adapt in this new world? Naturally, everybody links this to technology. And it's true that technology has fundamentally changed the way we work. Specific to our sector anyway, we knew that the banking sector had always invested in technology. All that has changed is the speed at which we are adapting it. So we had always been on that journey. But of course, it's quite an expensive journey. And an expensive journey will require some good governance in making sure the money that's spent, is spent in the right way to get it. So for us, governance is important. Agility was a word that was used also by Mr. Addo. agility in decision-making, agility in linking up the ecosystem, because you can't really survive without being part of a system. A business cannot be on its own. Agility in identifying your cost structures is important. We realize that the businesses that had a lot more fixed costs suffered a lot more during the crisis than those that had variable costs. So that's really important for us to follow. The other bit is the sector to which you invest in. I mean, capital is limited, so I guess as a company, you begin to select the sectors that you invest in going forward. Financial services is definitely one of them, and we've seen the profitability of all the global banks. The pharmaceuticals, which was mentioned earlier. And also you can take a cue from, I guess, the companies that have done very well in this crisis. These are the Amazons, these are the Facebooks, these are the the tech companies in particular, so a cue can be taken. Why are they so good at what they're doing? Because it's a flat organization, they react very fast, they're using younger people to run the business who are obviously more adaptable than older ones. So a variety of strategies we would need and will be required to survive this crisis. And a lot of them have been mentioned here already, but I think the most important one is governance of the organization. How are decisions taken, and are they taken as fast as possible to cope with a very, very fast-changing world?
So this is very interesting. It leads me to my next question, which I would like you to share with Letitia Brown.
Okay.
And, your buzzword on agility sort of triggered a lot of memories about case studies that I've read and that have been shared across platforms. So now let's go to this. So following a business plan to the letter makes an organization static rather than agile or flexible. But data is showing us that instead of being really good at a specialized area, organizations should rather be better at learning how to do new things. This is why in the area of human resource, myself, Prince Moses here, I am a proponent of a mix of atypical backgrounds that express both polyvalence and specialization, among others. Like antithetical, but really, for me, that is what works. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to be known for something as a business, and so sticking to your core is important. But if you stick to the core for too long, you actually lose that leadership, and therefore it's important that while you're doing your core, you still have a means of innovating such that you don't get competed out in the market.
Letitia, quickly.
Yeah, so very quick. Dominic has really kind of touched upon the core of what I was going to say as well. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was going to say the businesses definitely have to be known for something. I think during the pandemic, we've seen a lot of businesses try to transform into, to meet the needs of the pandemic. But at the core of that, they've remained true to their core business. So I think that that's really key. One of the other things I'll maybe touch upon is what you said, Prince, about the mix in terms of human capital resource, right? And I think that the fellow panelists have already spoken about the importance of grooming entrepreneurs in these times, and grooming entrepreneurs with the perspective that we need to be grooming agile minds. I recall when we made our first investment with the Ghana Angel Investor Network, we invested into an edutech company that had plans to, as the whole West Africa shares the same curriculum, to rapidly move into Sierra Leone and Liberia. And then we had the Ebola pandemic, and we quickly had to rethink that whole strategy. So these are things that you can't necessarily plan for, but if you have a really strong entrepreneur behind the business and you have a strong team that are thinking entrepreneurially and constantly looking for new opportunities, then you're able to adapt. So yes, the team at the core of this whole process is really, really key.
So adaptability is about agility, flexibility, and not sticking to a business plan that is static. One person before we got here told me that a business plan is supposed to be a template, not something that you stick religiously to. this would be true. I see you nodding. Mr. Jomo.
Yes, I think it is. And to bring it more home, we've all known about this whole Samsung, Apple, this whole process. And their models were slightly different. Where Samsung started by having an open source, which encouraged people with talent to come and innovate on their platform. Apple initially went for this loyal following, which was much more of a closed thing, which was, we will solution for you and bring it out to you. Fast forward, Apple now had to start opening up as well. And it tells us that if you have a template which you guard jealously into extinction. Because as the world changes, you do need to sort of incorporate it. So I think the sweet spot for every